We are working around the clock to ensure that things are put in place for you people to come at Hotel Rafiki Nairobi to receive your certificate, interact with global men and women who have also reached and done so much in the industries of research and strategy, and would be a good opportunity. I would love to meet all my students, all of them here. And you see now the beauty of this graduation again, ladies and gentlemen, is it has categorized people in the level of your qualification. Apart from the proficiency, the guy, please mute. Okay. So, apart from the training of proficiency that we're providing today, this graduation does not take everyone at equal level. The background you came with in this training will still determine the category you qualify as you go for graduation. I know Dr. Amolo is here, and I would love that Dr. Amolo is crowned as a doctoral fellow to add a PhD on something else, again, another title. And Dr. Wasike, I know those are the group we are going to get the doctoral research fellows, so that we also have others also coming up as strategic research experts in management, administration, educational researchers. We have principals on board who will also going to be educational researchers as certified. And so it's going to be, colorful event, and we are looking forward to see all of you participating in this process. So today, let me start the lesson. I'm talking about the third topic of the fourth session, which is strategic plan development process. The strategic plan development process, ladies and gentlemen. Diana, let me get to the first slide. We've started the journey of introduction. We have done the perspectives, we've done the topics that entail strategic plan, and now we are at a point where we are now looking at how do we develop, because you have been equipped enough, you have been told enough, you have learned enough. So it's now about looking at how do we now come to the process of developing the document as a tool of management. And this is most important for all of us, because even as you're going to be certified these coming weeks, you should have this in mind, that it is the practice that will now take you higher heights, even as you network. So the process of strategic planning and development process, ladies and gentlemen, has several subtopics. And these subtopics, we are going to cover all of them today. Next week's lesson, which will be the last lesson for the cohort 1, I'll be teaching strategic plan with the document itself. We'll use a sample strategic plan document from one of my clients that we have worked for, and then we use that to go through the last class so that we become more practical. What can be done, what should be done, and what needs to be done. So today's subtopics, we'll look at how we develop and finally sign terms of reference as a process of coming up with a strategic plan. So we must get into terms of reference. What defines what needs to be done, the setting the rules of the game, and then we'll also do identification of clarified mandates. There are particular mandates that are already clarified and already written in the documents available in the institution. And so we'll also delve a little bit into that. We will also look at development and clarification of the mission as a process of coming up with a strategic plan. We'll also look at an assessment of an external and internal environment. Remember, we looked at it at the SWOT and PESTEL, and we also did a bit of the gap analysis and several other analyses that we did. But at this point now, when you are developing a strategic plan, you have now to bring on board the things that you have learned all together to form part of the D and E. The F, identification of strategic issues. Now, that is where the rubber meets the road, ladies and gentlemen. You have done a lot of research, you've done a lot of the baseline survey, you've even done, you may have also done what's called the change theory and come up with these things. And now you need to come up with strategic issues or priorities and develop goals, develop strategies, so that now the document becomes rich. The value and the most important part of the strategic plan is that is the point of strategic issues and priorities. So that we don't say we need to buy more furniture for the institution as opposed to probably expanding our departmental offices. And so the strategic issues are very pertinent in this journey of developing a strategic plan and then formulation of an integrated strategic plan. So we will bubble down into finally now drafting the document, coming up with the implementation matrices, coming up with how the document finally needs to be delivered to the client, and finally launching the document to be utilized by the end user. Then we can do a bit of review and implementation and control. So once the document has been done, there's an aspect of implementation and control and monitoring. So that becomes a good process of ensuring that the document you've come up with for the institution has met the threshold of being a good tool of management. Next. Now, at this point in time, I know we are 41. We are usually 60, 70. We are expecting more people to roll in. But I want us to interact again for 10 minutes. As usual, we have been interacting. But we are doing a picture. We are picturing how our organizations look like. What, which way in our organization? I know there's a place you work for, there's a business you run, there's an NGO you work, there's a church you go to, there's an institution where you lead as a head of institution or a principal. It is important now to look at it, to reflect and see which parts are we taking. And we want to open this forum for 10 minutes again for people to indulge and tell us what happens in their institution, A, B, C, D, and support their case in this. Diana, you open the forum for 10 minutes exactly.
All right, so the procedure is simple. You can raise your hand, you can unmute, and give your comment. So if you have a comment, you can just unmute or raise your hand.
As a point of order, Diana, before we are also networking. When you want to give a comment, ensure you introduce your name and probably if you feel like you should tell us what you're doing in a brief session and give your comment. It's important so that we also networking with understanding. So we can go on. Firstborn princess, you want to say something?
Yes, good evening, team. My name is Meteos, Faith of Felistas. Currently, I'm in Nairobi. Uh, I just want to remind you, Mwalimu, that you are once my employer sometimes back when I came to Nairobi. That is in the year 2017.
Wow.
And thank you. The session has been so good. Personally, I'm enjoying and I'm learning a lot of things. Being a young youth, I feel like this is the home. I feel like I'm more than where am I supposed to be?
Wow.
Just like I am home because I can see we are I see the way I see you today is the same way I saw you 7 years ago.
Wow. You called me after the class.
Thank you.
So what do you see? Where do we belong? Are we doing wrong? Are we doing wrong things badly in where our place of work? Are we doing right things badly, or are we doing right things or doing things right? Then are we doing wrong things? Well, what is happening in our place of work? Some comments, please.
Okay, now maybe commenting basing on my place of work. I know my employer is not here personally, and I've also studied human resource management as a course. So being a HR profession or in a HR profession, and also being in an organization somewhere, basing on my own personal experience, I feel like where I am now, not us as a basket one, but where I am now, I feel like we are doing wrong things. We are doing bad things right, personally. Maybe an explanation. Sometimes we feel like we are not engaging employees um, in terms of decision making process. I saw this the other way Madam Namehe was teaching us, and also strategic planning as it is concerned. I feel like sometimes when in an organization, it's okay to include employees so that them, because they are on the ground, they feel the heavy, the burden. The experience they are having on the ground can help us as people or as strategic planners to come up with ideas of plan according to what's being experienced on the ground. That is personal. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. This is Virginia. Uh,
Virginia.
Sometimes in organizations, especially, okay, I won't say especially, but sometimes in the NGO world, you'll find that the standard operating procedure sometimes will say you're supposed to do a baseline before any project implementation. And that is also now the strategic activities that you're supposed to take. But you find that maybe because of either lack of funds or delayed funds, implementations goes ahead. And then later, when you're in the middle of implementation somewhere, you're told you should have done a baseline. And then now you start backdating, doing a baseline come uh, midline. I don't know if I have to say that when you're trying to get the milestones and you're expected maybe within a few months to do an endline assessment. So now that becomes a very big challenge. So sometimes you're doing the right things badly because you have, I would put it in the category B. It's you're doing the right thing, but at the same time now, it's like you have to go back and start asking questions when you're already somewhere in the middle, when you're supposed to be checking on the milestones again. Now you're going for the baseline for you to work through. Thank you.
Two more persons,
Evelyn,
then we take.
you can give your contribution.
Yes, thank you, Diana. I'm right here. I want to take some opinion on B and C. According to me, we are doing certain things right, but badly, doing them badly. They are right, but we are doing them badly. Martha, please, fast go, fast go. Sorry, sorry. We are doing right things badly, and then sometimes we are doing right things in the right way. I take an NGO example, the NGO world. You realize we have the overall organizational strategic plans that have to join all of us in the different departments, and every employee has a contribution to that. And then we have individual, departmental, independent plans, strategic plans for the projects. So my concern in relation to this is the joinery, the integration, the connectivity to ensure that we all contribute to the final organizational plan. You realize sometimes it is not joining or connecting so well because there's this kind of independency on each department running different projects. Take an example of maybe a health department. It has maybe an Ebola project, it has maybe a COVID-19 project, and then there is another department called maybe disaster risk management, focusing on the floods and the like. But when it comes to joining, integrating all of them to contribute to the end result in the plan, sometimes it's a bit confusing in there. I think because sometimes, in fact, most cases, lower level employees are not involved in these things of consultations, baseline surveys, decision making, and so on. So somewhere, somehow, we are messing up a bit, though we are doing certain things right in the right way and certain things that are right, but badly. Thank you.
One more person.
One more person.
Nicholas Omolo, you can unmute and give your comment.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Nicholas Omolo from Kenya, in Turkana County in particular. I'm working with another NGO around Turkana there. So I want to also talk about B and C. We do things badly. One is that whenever there's a donor or a funds to come to the communities, we don't address the community needs, but we want to address the donor needs. So it's more of a top-down approach. So you find that some community, they don't want to maybe a borehole, but you put for them there because that's what you think that's good for them. Instead of community coming up and telling you, oh, we need this thing to do happen there. So we need to really think about community needs. That is that's number one. Number two is about the issue of focus. You find that when a funds comes to the place, the primary focus should be the community or the participants. But you find that the partners, most cases, they want to look at their own needs even before they go to the needs for the community. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for your feedback on how things are happening back there. And that is why we are here to come up with a document that we should be inspiring, that should now coordinate activities and events in organizations so that we are able to manage to escape the maladies that come with this kind of thing. Somebody said that if you are running very fast in the wrong direction and you continually increase your speed, is the best definition of madness. And so, if you're doing a wrong thing so well and so well, then I think I'll avoid to mention the word, but that's exactly what happens in our institutions. We need to heal. So let's see the next slide. As we heal this ABCD case. Diana? Now, when we are now developing a strategic plan as a process, the first element is to come up with the terms of reference. The organization may have come up with one, but now the agreement discussion, in a panel discussion to agree how we are going to engage, the purpose of engaging this particular thing. We must know, remember we had looked at some of types of strategic plan, the categories. So we must agree which category are we coming up with. We also must agree with preferred methodology. Organizations have their own policies, and these policies sometimes dictate the procedure that must be undertaken. And being so, especially if you're working, maybe you're taking a business unit strategic plan, which now focuses on, for example, production, and say you are doing it for Coca-Cola. They may not allow you to access the deeper formulation processes and start querying it. And so they have come up with their own methodology that will allow you to access information at peripheral level. There's some level that you cannot enter. And so we have to agree which methodology you are going to use. There are some places that require a lot of sensitivity when you are doing the data collection, and so methods must be agreed upon the stakeholders in that session. Then we have to agree on the timing and reporting. When shall we report? After how many days? After how long? The timing. So in these terms of reference, we are agreeing on that. We also agree on the composition of membership. You come up with a team, the dream team, that is now supposed to enable the process of developing or formulation of strategic plan. So agreeing who becomes the chair of the committee or task force, agreeing who holds what and which capacity, and then we're coming up with respective roles. Then we come up with a commitment resource to do that. Remember, some organizations have allowances that they give to specific members who participate. So that must be agreed at the terms of reference. So that when you have a job to do a strategic plan for an organization, and then the members are asking you for allowance that you didn't agree there. So you realize you start paying them from your invoice, which is not a discussion that you agreed in the initial place. So we must agree which resources in terms of money, resources in terms of technology we need to be able to collect data and come up with information we need in terms of the personnel we are going to engage. Remember, when we are doing a stakeholder analysis, we may not do it holistically, but we are sampling a population that we are going to do it. And so we commit to know which person, which is it the vice chair or the chair of the board that we are going to meet? Is it the line manager we are going to meet? Is it the church and the sponsor of the institution that are going to? We have to agree at that point. So we have to develop and agree and sign terms of reference. That's step number one. Step number two, Diana, step number two, the step number two, when we are processing a strategic plan, ladies and gentlemen, we now do we look at identification of clarified mandate. There are specific information in the organization that you don't need to do audit or edit, for example. They have policies, policy papers, guiding and counseling of policy documents within the organization. They have policy documents, they have laws, internal laws that govern the operation of this institution. And therefore, they have already spelled out from their charters, the articles, if they have signed a contract with the other organization in terms of articles of association, they have given spelled out specific information that is supposed to be dealt with at that stage. So issues of legislation, what does the law say? Act, for example, if the Education Act for schools, for example, if it's about the county integrated development fund aspect of the national government funding act, so the PFM acts, all of them must be put in place so that you understand what do these already clarified mandates say about this process, so that we don't want to chat into areas that are not supposed to be. So we must clearly understand the provisions of the law, the regulations, and understand the do's and the don'ts of the organization before you embark on any task. It is important to know that. So you see, you can see the photo, I'm getting clarification from the boss so that I'm able to execute the task. Next slide. Number three, we need to identify and clarify mission and values. At this point in time, if you start doing a strategic plan without looking at what are the mission and vision of the organization, I know we have organizations where these documents are not even available. People don't, stakeholders don't even remember, workers don't remember, it's not published anywhere. So they start looking from files. Where's our mission? Where's the vision? You must ensure that you're working with an existing information. Get clarification, the vision and the mission of that organization, and the values. Remember, the values of each organization may have different meaning and interpretation altogether. So the interpretation may have a total different approach. So when, for example, an organization like ESCC, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, has one of the values to say corruption free. I'm just doing an example. And then another organization, for example, the Kenya Police, they are talking about the same thing. Maybe the interpretation is different. So you may realize that what they came up with as a value does not apply to many other organizations. So you must get clarity of the values. What are the values? When we talk about integrity, what do we mean in the context of this institution? So we may get that clarification. Then we must see consensus on the mission and the values. We must all agree that this is what we want. Even if it's coming up with a way of modifying whatever is existing so that it matches the interests of the stakeholders and the market at large. So we must agree and make sure that the process of coming up or clarifying these mission and values must be very highly participatory and consultative. So these are very key area where we must understand what it means, lest we may be copying a vision and state and values from another organization, but have totally different interpretation. You see in the picture there, we were doing clarification of the values and mission in one of the institutions in Nairobi. So we finally audited what was existing, and we came up with a good vision, mission, and values for the organization. So it is very participatory from the team. So let's see the fourth step of developing this document. Now we do an assessment. Once that has been done, now we embark on the tools of doing scanning of internal and external environment of the organization. Understanding this so well in the process we did in the previous class, how we do the SWOT analysis how we do the pestle analysis, how we carry out uh, the, the gap analysis and what have you. So those analyses must be put in place. At this point is when we do now scanning of the environment. And now we must be able to understand the opportunities and the threats that are glaring at the organization through that SWOT. We should be able now to analyze the political and economic environment of the institution. We must be able to look at the social factors around us as an organization, be able to look at the technological trends. We look at the legal framework under which the institution is formed or operating, issues of compliance. We also must look at the collaborators and competitors. What are they doing differently? What is the market? What is the dictates of the market on the same manner? So we must really understand that so that we're able to come up with a very good document that will really be implemented. So let's look at the fifth step. Now, still on the fifth, thank you. So that was external. The internal environment, we are looking at the internal systems and operating structures. So identify what are the strengths and weaknesses within the organization. Using the same thing, we use the SWOT, PESTEL, we use all the analysis we had studied in the previous lesson, and we also analyze the current strategies that are utilized. First of all, we must look at, as we are auditing, because we want to come up with an efficient way of doing things and very effective. So we look at the inputs. We must understand the organization's input. That is what the resources they are putting into the operations of the things they are carrying out. We also must understand the process. Could there be a gap in the process? Could there be an issue that is affecting productivity because of the process, input process, and then output, which is basically the performance? We must be able to measure that. So we are looking at their strategies, what they are using now against what they should be using based on the vision they have already provided or the one that you might have audited and modified. And then we also must build consensus on how we are going to judge accountability and performance in this organization. So we agree at that point that we have to measure internal and external environment, come up with a SWOT, PESTEL, come up with all kind of analysis that will help us now get information that takes us to the next year. Next. Next. Okay. So the sixth step is identification of strategic issues. This is where we will take a bit of time because it is a very critical part. A critical part. Someone is asking for attendance too early. Um, we are talking about now identifying strategic issues. We have already worked on the mission and vision and values. We have already looked at many other factors. We have already done the meeting, we have signed the contract. We have already come to the point of now doing a SWOT and a PESTEL analysis for the organization. We now know the internal and external environment. So we have a lot of data to process. So this data processing must now give us what now comes to this stage, identification of strategic issues, developing goals and objectives. Now, in this stage, strategic issues, Namehe is asking something? Okay. Are these very critical? Yes.
No, I was requesting members to be a little patient. We shall sign the attendance later. Let's first attend class and get the concepts. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. And so we are looking at strategic issues are policy questions. So when you are coming out with the policy questions that are going now to run the organization for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or 3 years, a strategic plan. So the policy questions that are going to affect the organization, affecting its mission, it will affect the values. The question that will come up with as strategic issues will affect the products if it's a business, will affect the activities that we undertake. And so we must be very keen how to frame the policy questions. So it's important that we deal precisely on this aspect so that we are able to deal with the why issue and the how issue in the organization. So the document that we come up with must explicitly define the why and the how issues in the policy question. So remember, we are now becoming policy experts. The moment you are able to come up with any strategic plan, you already become a policy expert. So let's go to the next slide and see some of the techniques we would use. Thank you for uploading. Thank you. So when we are coming up with a policy issue, a policy question, I know we hear that in Parliament. Institutions also have policies. So for us to frame the policy question, it must be very clearly described. We describe the policy question very well. For example, a policy question would be to enhance ICT infrastructure in the running and administration of the institution. To enhance ICT infrastructure in running and administration of the institution. So that would be like a question, a policy question. That policy question will be that will guide the operation for that institution for about 5, 10, or 15 years. So how are we going to enhance the utility of ICT in the management of the institution? How are we going to do that? We must define it so well that talks about specific things that we're coming up. And again, this policy question must factor the fundamental issue question should be listed in relation to the mandate. Now, the policy question that we come up with or policy statement must be related to the organization mandate, the organization vision, mission, and values. It must be related. Otherwise, we can now come up with things that are not connected. Remember, one of the things when we are coming with a strategic plan is to ensure that we have an alignment of goals and visions. And therefore, the framing of the policy question must be in relation, well connected to the vision statement, the mission, the mandate that is undertaking, or the strategic objectives that you are undertaking in that organization. And that is why when we're doing a survey in the beginning, in terms of reference, we are getting to understand and clarify the mandate. How do we frame questions that will relate closely to that? And then we look at the planning team should state consequences of failure to address that. That is the worst case scenario again. In the policy question, before we finally come up with a policy question, we must look at the circumstances that would occur if we don't address that particular thing, so that we're now able to come up with the most suited policy question. What would be the worst scenario, for example, if we do not enhance ICT infrastructure in the management and running of the institution? Then we look at the gaps like wastage, time issues, non-compliance issues, competition issues. Those would be the worst case scenario if we don't do that. Should that be the policy question in this case as an example? So let's look at the next slide. So, in a way of identifying policy issues or priorities or framing of the policy question, there are different approaches. And one of the approaches here, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call direct approach. And let me say a good example here. You know, when you're just walking on the streets and you meet a very beautiful lady and you are so quick to say, I want to marry you. The assumption is she's not married or she's interested. So you realize that you have used so many assumptions when you are asking this lady that I want to marry you. You have not factored so many things. So this direct approach does not factor in many things in the organization. It does not know whether the institution is married or not. It simply focuses straight to the SWOT. You come up with a SWOT, you don't look at the vision, you don't look at anything, you just go to SWOT or plot, or pestle. And then you see, we said lack of internet connectivity in the institution. You found that in the SWOT analysis as a weakness. Then you also looked at we do not have water supply issues in the organization as a challenge and a weakness in the organization. Then you looked at one of the threats, maybe use of technology. And then the direct approach simply goes right to those issues and develop the strategic questions, develop the framework of the questions direct from the SWOT, plot, mission, and pestle analysis without looking at many other factors. So it becomes a closed-minded approach, although many organizations will do that. We do the SWOT, don't touch, there are places you don't touch on the vision, forget about those other things, forget about other operations in the organization, focus on do the SWOT and come up with the strategic objectives and strategic issues. So it becomes one of the things that as an approach that organization can also do. There are several circumstances under which organization of this nature would do that. For example, if you're working for government agency, there are things you will not touch. There are things you cannot talk about. And so you just do the SWOT, the pestle, you look at what is in the plot, and finally come up with a strategic objective. If you want to delve deeper into how many things were done, how much the vision is applicable in the government agencies, you may realize that you hit a snarl, and you may hit the wrong way, you may touch the wrong button. And so there are approaches as you agree in the terms of reference, you also agree the methodology. Are we going to do the direct approach, or are we going to use another different approach in coming up with these strategic issues as we do the identification? So that is why the strategic planning process, it is both intellectual, economic thing, and at the same time political thing at the same time. It has a political direction. It at the same time has a management approach. And so we must understand the politics in the institution that you want to work for. Otherwise, you may come and think you want to completely do an overhaul of the entire organization and realize that you may not achieve even 10% of what you're doing. So you must agree, which one are we going to approach? So let's get the next example. Let's get the next approach. From the direct approach, we have what we call, now before we get to that, there are several things that a direct approach might assume when undertaking that there's no mismatch between existing goals and objectives. So when you finally do that, when you are meeting a lady on the street and say, I want to marry you, you are assuming that this lady does not have anyone. So there's no mismatch. So you simply pick on it the way it is. There is no pre-existing intention to modify the vision. Like you are saying, I want to marry you. You do not know if this lady is dating or probably she's even running around to look for her wedding gown. And then you are quickly saying, I want to marry you. There's no intention to modify the vision. There is no hierarchical authority that can impose goals on other stakeholders. You want to assume this direct approach assumes that, like what our friend from Turkana said here, that the sponsors or donors dictate some decisions, and therefore they dictate which direction we will take. And so if you assume that we do not have hierarchical authority and that will impose goals to the team, that this must be implemented, and then you cannot take that direct approach. You're saying you want to say, I want to marry you with an assumption that you don't need to probably go and ask from their parents or the next of kin or people who are close related to her. You are too fast to say it. You have assumed so many things. And so direct approach also uses the same approach, directly the way it is. That it is unwise to develop vision and goals because of the circumstances. You know what? It is like saying, I want to marry you because my age has gone so fast. Maybe your age as well. I'm too tired of staying alone, and so I want to marry. That's your justification. So there's no need. We don't have time to negotiate, to think about many things. That's the assumption of direct approach. Let's get to see the next approach. So the next approach in identifying strategic issues, ladies and gentlemen, is what's called the goal approach. Now, the goal approach, we either, as an institution, come up with goals. From the vision, we come up with the goals and develop objectives and start implementing them. And then scale down to strategies and finally develop the document. In this case, the aspects of donor influence, the aspect of high overarching authority over the planning team and the stakeholder applies. For example, a donor will say, I'm going to give you 2,000, 5,000 US dollars to implement an issue, say FGM, female genital mutilation. So they have already given you what to do. So you don't need to go to do a reverse strategy. So you have a goal. So develop objectives and then continue from there. So the aspect of a direct approach would not have applied because you cannot simply go to the SWOT. You have to start from the goal. What is the goal that you have been given? At this point, we must have a broad agreement on the organization goals and objectives. A broad agreement. It's agreed that the stakeholders want this, and therefore the implementers want this. And therefore, what we need to do is to work to modify, tail around what you have been given to ensure that we get the results. That there's an existence of organization. Yes, the authority that will give direction. The authority that give direction. So you have to keep on consulting. Which direction do we take? Which approach do we take? They are powerful decision makers. Even government agencies, powerful decision makers that can impose goals to the organization. So you only pick the goal. Don't go into a lot of things. Pick the goal, develop on it, improve on that. Because you are picking on a particular unit line of business. Forget about many other things that exist because you may not necessarily be able to turn it upside down. The next, after goal approach, we have the third approach, which is called the scenario approach. Is Dr. Juma in the house?
Yes, I'm present, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Juma, Engineer Juma.
Very closely.
Thank you. Engineer Juma had talked in the first or second class asked about the scenario approach. Yes. And it has come at a time when we are now moving closer to the score line.
Correct.
So scenario approach. Look at this cartoon. The scenario approach, you develop an ideal picture of the organization first. You have to see, then you frame the picture, the future look of that organization that you work for. And then you identify what will be the drivers, the propelling fires that will take us to that future. What could be the things behind that energy that will take us there? And then you create scenarios. Fine. It is good. We want, as an organization, to become an ISO certified, maybe the current class, ISO certified. And therefore, when we become globally certified as an ISO certified institution, what will be the things? We now start working on the internal procedures and processes to ensure that we are compliant, we are meeting what is required, our processes are documented, we start working on that. How do we document our procedures and processes? All published, and signed by the respective stakeholders, and then we create scenario. Scenario number one, if we become ISO certified, we become global players. That is scenario number one. If we fail to become, certified globally as ISO team, what happens is we continue playing as domestic organization that cannot need to compete globally. And then another scenario is, if we only meet halfway, would have spent a lot of money. We have spent a lot of cost into this organization, but finally we lose it altogether. And so you create scenarios. What if this does not happen? What if this happens? So it is good for organizations to come up with a scenario approach so that you are able to scan the uncertainties in the business, in the organizations, uncertainties, and start thinking ahead of time. Strategic thinkers, what will happen if it takes side A? Sometimes when you talk in a team and you're telling them, what if it does not happen? They think you are a pessimist, but you're just too realistic. In case plan A fails, what happens? In case plan A fails. So the scenario approach must figure in that. Before I come and say I want to marry you, I must figure in mind, what if this girl is married? What if she's not married and she turns me down? What will be the implication? What if she gives in now? What do I do? So you must put in scenario and now see what will be the implication at the end of it. So scenario approach makes you to come up with alternative and be able to now document the action plan to the possible scenarios that might happen as you approach that. And that is one of the best ways of developing strategic issues, scenario approach. Let's look at the next. The next step, we are now dispensed with approaches. Remember, we have different categories, we have different ways, or rather techniques of identifying strategic objectives. Some of them we call the oval mapping approach. We have the what you call the intensity approach. We have several approaches that we could use to do that. But we are focused on this for the purpose of this document. And so the seventh step when we are coming up with this strategic plan is aspects of formulation, implementation, control, and integration of strategic plan. Now we are at the heart and at the point of being able to implement to write strategic plan. So at this point in time, we must factor the practicability of that document and the dream that we come up with. We come up with the alternative dream that now is more practical. We might have come up with a copied vision before, but because we have come a long way now, getting exactly our mind, stakeholders' mind, where we want to go and basically how we want to get there, finally we must come up with the best alternative dream that we are going to use to get to the next level. We must now draft the document and validate the document. Drafting process is stage one. Once we draft the document, we have to go back to the stakeholders in a team, either stakeholder representatives in the strategic plan committee that we have come up with, or any format that we might have come up with at the terms of reference stage. At this point, we now do the validation. Will the team agree that this is what we said we need? Do the team agree that this is what we said we should work with? At the validation point is a good point now to mirror and correct where anomalies have occurred in the process of one, the process of development, and two, at the process of drafting of the document. And then at this stage in time, ladies and gentlemen, we must also be very keen to develop what we call implementation plan. Provide a mechanism to implement the document we have come up with, and a monitoring and evaluation scheme that now guides how do we control and monitor change in the document we have presented. You finally must deliver this document to the client. The client can make arrangements to launch, to get both social, political, and economic optics in the launch. Launching is important because somehow the public will know that there's a document in the institution. And therefore, they will also demand accountability of the things mentioned in the document. So you can see here, we are not launching. I'm delivering a strategic plan document to one of the schools in this country. The principal is receiving one of the documents. So you must deliver the work within the agreed schedule. Next slide.
Before you move, Dr.
Yes.
What is the minimum period one has to work on a strategic plan? The minimum period.
Okay, let me answer you that even before that. We do not have a minimum or maximum period
Mm.
because as the point of terms of reference, Abimba, please mute. Diana, please protect me. Thank you. Okay.
Diana, can you mute Fred?
Atemba, please mute. Atemba, please mute.
Thank you. Thank you for decorum. So, Engineer Juma, we do not have a set period of time for the document to be undertaken. It
Okay.
is the practical way of doing it. What is time? What is practically possible is the time you agree at the terms of reference. Remember, the organization that may have urgency to have the document done within 2 weeks, and therefore is asked now to get more people, to create more people in the team that will help the process and ensure that we have stakeholders available. So factors that determine the period of time are one, the availability of stakeholders, or what we call resources. Availability of stakeholders. We may be talking about a situation where stakeholders are in the US and they are saying they must travel to come and have an audience with you in a focus group discussion. And so that delays the process. Availability. Number two, resources. If the organization has enough resources to have more people working from different quarters and combining data together, the process can take the highest speed time possible. The third thing would be the policy documents within the institution. Organizations have come up with their own charter. The charter could provide how long that should be done. So it cannot come from the consultant part, but the organization part. And most importantly, practically, you know that you cannot write a paper in one day, a good paper. And therefore, averagely, you should take not less than 7 days. Whichever small organization it is, we may be talking about organization that is starting and needs a strategic plan. So it does not have a lot of engagement because we are only anticipating and projecting. And therefore, we can take a maximum of 7 days so that you are able to write a document, go through the document, go through the stages of validation, and be able to deliver the document. So 7 days will be the minimum we'll look at, but it's not necessarily written that it has to cover this period of time.
Correct. Thank you.
Now, review, formulation, implementation, and control of integrated strategic plan. That one we have already done, Diana. The next slide. Thank you. Now, an integrated strategic plan that you would have come up with, ladies and gentlemen, must be technically workable and implementable. You know, there's a way of writing something and a way of implementing it. You can write a document that's too technical, too difficult for people to understand. And so it becomes difficult for anyone to implement. So you must really measure the technicality that are needed there and the kind of convenience that comes in terms of implementation. Remember, as an expert, the implementers are not experts necessarily. And so when you do use a lot of technical approaches, technical terminologies, and make it difficult for even people, the end user, to implement, then you will have just written a document that will gather dust at the shelves. We don't want to create document with gather shelf in our institutions. So make it possible enough to implement. Reduce it, put it in a Gantt chart, units that will be implemented one by one. Break down, including a work breakdown structure on how who will take what in the implementation process, so that specific item has been broken down into smaller units. We usually say when you are coming up with a strategic plan for an institution, even remember the gatekeeper has a role to play. The person sitting at the gate and the CEO, they equally have a role in implementation, and therefore make it user-friendly. The document you come up with must be politically acceptable and to key stakeholders. We are talking about stakeholders who are in a diaspora. They have given you a lot of money and embossed a goal to you to come up with the objectives, implementation matrices, and then come up with the document. So make sure that it's politically acceptable. Don't get into affairs that will make the document unimplementable, especially when you drag the politics into it. When you want to take sides in the political dimensions in your writing, definitely the document will have a lot of interest and will have a lot of ways that people will stop it from being implemented. So ensure the document has political acceptance. That is why when we are doing stakeholder mapping, and of course we did here in the last topic about how we categorize our stakeholders in terms of who are influential, who are powerful, and who are interested. How do we communicate to them so that the document gets the political acceptance? We must ensure that the document is in accordance to organization philosophy and core values. The document does not veer off the main mandate of the organization. And that is why the problem of copying and pasting comes in. People who don't write documents that is originally the institution where they are working for, they realize they have done a lot of copy pasting, and whatever they're arguing or talking about is not related to this. And therefore you realize the document cannot be implementable. It must be ethical, moral, and legal. It has a legal binding. The policy document that you come up with, you must have looked at the terms of reference. What are the specific areas in the agreement of the organization that have factors in the implementation process? And therefore, we must be on the legal side. As we are even doing personal, there's a legal aspect of it, so that we do not come up with a document that again hits a nail. It cannot move. People go to stop it because it has not made 1, 2, 3 things in the policy document suggestions. Remember, policy are legal documents. Legal in terms of internal operation and external effect. And therefore, you must also be sure that you are working within the squares of the law. We also must be environmentally conscious. Today's strategic plan, in the trends of the current things today, we talk about environment. We must factor in environment. We must come up with a smart, integrated strategic plan that takes care of the environment. We must factor a strategic objective or a strategic issue that talks about environment. We might talk about reducing the paper utility. We need to reduce our paper utility. We are using so much paper in our institution. Talk about paper. How do we reduce utility of paperwork so that we save on the environment? How do we deal with waste in the management of an institution? How do we deal with the disposal of the e-waste, the computers that have been utilized? So you must come up with something that also focuses. Thank you so much, Robert Juma. We must be green conscious, because green is sustainable. We then also must come up with an adaptive and agile document that can be flexible enough to adjust to a changing environment. We should be able to review the document. Unless we are doing a document for the church somehow, for other organizations, we do not introduce what we call an internal clauses. A clause that can only be appealed in the court of heaven. In the church environment, that is true, because when we talk about the doctrine of the church, an approach in the church, those are eternal clauses. But in the business NGO environment, we cannot come up with a clause that you can only appeal to God for it to be reviewed. Don't make them cast on stone. Finally, we must make the document measurable. You look at the document, you can see we said we want to get this, but we are here, we can measure it. Then that forms how an integrated strategic plan document would look like. Next slide, which is now probably Diana's time. Next slide, Diana. We have acquired this material, photos, from our website, www.staviastrategies.co.ke. We are just attributing. We also acquired this material from googleimages.co. We also acquired it from Alami Blogspots. So at this point in time, I want to allow Madam Diana Doreen to present to us the process of registration so that we can all graduate. I want to meet all these faces. We have never met except on this social media. We can meet over a cup of tea at Panafric Hotel. Diana, please show us how to apply and register.
Before we get to the process of registration, because I believe we don't want to, I'm sure people have questions on the presentation, and we don't want them to miss out on that aspect. So let's maybe allow people to ask questions on the presentation first, so that it can be, the topic of today can be exhaustively attended to, because I'm sure this is a very crucial aspect when it comes to strategic planning. So I'm seeing Morina, you have your hand raised. Morina, do you have a question? So if you have a questions regarding the presentation, you can ask any question, any concern about the presentation that has been made. Let us finish with the presentation first, then we get to the others. Nicholas Omwalo, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks so much. Also, thanks for the presenter. That was a very well done presentation. I just have two questions tied to each other. One is in terms of the time frame for the plan. Is it like, do you have like an idea time frame in terms of either 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, like that? And then secondly, should we have like a budget tied to the plan, or that can be an annex by itself? Thank you.
Okay. Let me answer. We have different let me start with question one, time frame. We have different categories of strategic plan. They are also measured on time horizon. We have short-term strategic plan, long-term, or mid-term and long-term. So we have those that will go between 2 years to 3 years. That is a short-term. We have the medium-term, which goes 3 years to 5 years. Then we have long-term, which goes from 5 years to 10 years. So we can come up with a strategic plan based on the agreement of the organization. The organization may choose to have a shorter strategic plan. So we agree with the team, with the organization, what they want in particular. So that is question number one. Number two, our strategic plan must have a budget. In the implementation, you need a budget. You must have a budget in it. Because when we are coming up with the strategic goals, in the aspect of implementation of matrix, we must indicate the cost. What is the cost of implementing ICT infrastructure and management, and enhancing management, ICT, and operation of the organization? We have to give a budget for it. And therefore, finally, when we have done with the document, we do an annexure and give a comprehensive budget that now covers the entire strategic plan. Remember, strategic plan is also a document of money. So when we are talking about this strategic plan is worth 10 million, we are saying all the activities we have talked about can be implemented if this amount of money is able to be availed. Remember again, in the strategic plan, as we talk about resource aspect, we also talk about how do we raise the resources. We must do, when we are doing an internal environment of the business, we look at their resources. How much money do they have to implement the document? How do we raise more money that we need to enable the document to be implemented? And so there is a resource aspect in the strategic plan as a chapter that now tells us the resource available and there is deficit that will be acquired through 1, 2, 3 methods. And then we attach the document as an extra, the whole budget document that now becomes very holistic. For those who may probably be in finance department, may only be keen to just go to those kind of arithmetics and see how goal one will be implemented, how the money will be attained, and how the spend will be done. So That one, a budget issue must be factored. It's very important and very crucial for strategic plan.
Yes, Mr. Wesonga, kindly permit me to back this up a bit. I
Yes.
remember I've been attending these classes from the beginning and very attentive. And I remember the first time when we were starting the course, you told us some of the tactics of writing the strategic plan. And you said we do the draft and then we edit later. Meaning a strategic plan having its components all supposed to be embedded in the document and has to be perfected and engaging stakeholders plus resources, mobilization and allocation. It may not really have a specific time frame for writing it, and it may vary from organization to organization based on how they do things internally. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Name. Thank you so much. That's a good one.
I hope, Nicholas, you've been answered. We have Eric. Eric, you can unmute and ask your question.
Thanks, Diana. Consultants generally sometimes have a bad name when it comes to organizations, especially organizations that consider themselves successful. And what when a consultant comes in, sometimes you may encounter hostility, especially from staff who think you're just coming in to spoil a good thing, and two, unfortunately, especially in our region, sometimes consultants come in and they are used to justify downsizing. So how does one navigate those if you encounter hostility in an organization? It may be overt or covert.
Oh. Wow. Now the methodology, I think, is what will save your neck as a consultant. We, in the best practice, we usually talk about having what to call, if you realize you receive hostility, you can come up with a program that takes the team out of the environment of work. Because one of the things is to take people out of the environment of work, probably to take them to the forest and write this document from there. And we do what we call focus group discussion. In focus group discussion, you are putting people categories in different units. They discuss, you guide them on questions they are going to handle. Let them discuss. You make it stakeholder driven. That's what you are doing. Is you're not coming to do anything. It's them who will come up with what they want. So you just empower them to become the drivers of the process. And then when they know that they are the one driving the process, finally your expertise comes in when you are drafting the document. And so downsizing may not, because if the organization, if as strategic planner, the focus is so much on downsizing, then you also need to think about aspect of what we call market development and diversification, or rather product development. If product development will justify the numbers we have, then we have a redeployment approach, so that we don't need to say fire 10 people from the department, but we can redeploy in the newly created department that would serve better. Remember, when we are doing an internal analysis, we're also analyzing the staff capacity to handle several strategies. And so you realize an accountant who is good to be a librarian. You realize a kitchen staff who can be well versed with issues of receptionist services. And so we are talking about redeployment, transfer, and restructuring. And so the attitude of the staff could be, yes, informed on the fact that they don't understand the organization vision. Remember, we are measuring your individual contribution as a staff to the organization goal. So at the personal level, yes, we will have those who will have resistance because of the background they have about what has been happening before, but always ensure that you're coming in with a mind of ensuring that it's them who are driving the process. That's Eric, yes.
Any other question? We have Morina. Morina, do you have a question? Morina, you have your hand raised. Any other person with a question before we get to the second bit of this training?
Diana, can I say something?
Yes.
Yes, Dr.
Thank you very much. I will only restrict myself on the administrative issues. Members, participants, after the training, I have seen people saying, I did not see attendance register. Attendance register is posted in the chat section. Kindly, as you ask questions, as you listen to answers, find a minute and register your presence. God bless you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Wilberforce, for that. I think I can start from there. So the reason why we emphasize on the attendance register is just so we make sure that you get your certificate at the end of the The thing is, if you're not able to show that you are attending this session, you will miss out on the first certificate that pre-qualifies you to get the global certification. So that is why it is important for us to sign in the attendance register. And all that information is basically just used to share with you the certificate once the course is done. And also make sure, because in the initial training we had issues where people would say they are not they weren't able to get their certificates and all that. Sometimes you may be um, writing in the attendance register but you're using a wrong email address. Sometimes we say start with the area code for your contacts, and you put plus and minus at the same time. So once we've done all the data cleaning is when we can even identify that you had been part of our session. So make sure that even if you're signing the attendance register, make sure you're using the right names that you'd wish to appear in your certificates. Okay, I will invite Flavia Wamalwa. If you have something to say, you can unmute and give your comments or question. Flavia? Okay, let me continue. So, getting to the other side, I'm sure looking through the data that we had used for registration of this course, most of you had written you'd wish to add a skill to what you already have, or you wish to improve in whatever you're doing at the moment. Some said they'd wish to understand how a strategic plan is done. So there was various reasons why most of us applied for this course. So at this point, we said we would wish to have all of you finishing the course. That's why we put the makeup for the first class and the second class. Moving forward, we'll not have any makeup class. So after that, once you're done with this program, you have, and I had put it in the group very clearly, that you have the potential of getting a global certificate. And what a global certificate basically means is you are able to practice as a strategic manager, researcher, planner, consultant, administrator globally. You're not restricted in Kenya alone. So that is the benefit of getting certified by the Corporate Institute of Strategic Research. And then number two, when it comes to mentorship, even while we are doing this course, you get a lot of questions. How should I do this? How should I do this other thing? So once you join this prestigious global community, you are able to interact with people who have been in the industry, say like Stavia experts, as our trainer is in the industry. You cannot get that for free. And sometimes people would say people pay money for people like Stavia or people like the trainer to come and give a comment on their strategic plan. So if you will have any difficulties starting out as a strategic planner or a researcher or a consultant, then you'll have a community backing you up or giving you mentorship, or even being a strategic leader or a strategic researcher. Some of you are maybe still doing your masters, or you're at your PhD level and you have a research and you'd like to have an extra eye on it, or to have someone to help you with your research, that is also covered by the corporate body. So once you're done with this course, you will be given a certificate by Basket One Consulting, as we had said, and that is a certificate of participation, meaning you were exposed to such a training. But that does not mean that you have become a manager or a researcher, but you have been exposed to this, meaning you understand full well what goes on as a strategic, what a strategic planner or what a strategic plan is and how it is done. Then after that is when you can now interact with the link and look at it, because when you go to the link, for those who have had the chance to interact with the link, I'm sure you've seen a part where they say reference from Stavia or yeah, something like that. If you see that, that means it means you had finished this course and you have successfully finished it by signing all the attendance registers and getting certified by Basket One Consulting. Then therefore you're able to now proceed to the next level of going being certified globally. So when you interact with the document I sent, and I will reshare it in the group, you'll realize that we have 10 categories. All those categories are for you to just look through and see where do you fit, because one of the ways of being certified globally is through this training. That is just one of them. You become a strategic researcher, a strategic planner, a strategic mentor, or any other. And when you go back to that CISR website, you will see that they usually offer such courses. Even I've had the trainer talking about ISO. They provide different kinds of training, but they're not free. That's why Community Breakthrough Support gave us this opportunity to be trained for free. Otherwise, would have paid more than what we are supposed to pay at the moment. So now all that is left is for you to pay the $150 that is used as for you to be given a certificate, and that certificate gives you a practicing license for 3 years and the ability to be mentored in this profession and also to join different development programs that are run by CISR. So that's the thing. So there's also those people who are saying you just want to come and see how things are happening. You are not ready because the next graduation will be in December, so you're not ready. So you just want to see how things go on. There's that provision also. So I will allow you people to interact with the link and see how how easy it is to be navigated, if it's user friendly, if you have a question, if you have a concern. So there's the provision where you just come, listen, and leave. You pay $20. Then there's but you're still going to be given a certificate of participation. Then there's that come, listen for the 3 days, and you come in person at Panafric. You that is $50, and then there is $80 that gives you membership, direct membership to this body, and so much more, and the 150 that covers different categories. So I'll just give you a chance to look through it. And then also, if you are in an organization or if you have an organization and you'd wish to sponsor some of the managers that you feel meet these criteria, that you feel have been in the field and their contribution are exemplary, you can also sponsor them and allow them to be recognized in that event. That will boost them in various ways. So they'll also be part of the people who will be receiving awards. So there are different categories. So I'll just open the floor and allow, if you have any questions, it could be very basic, it could be complex. If you have interacted with the document, let us know, what do you think, or what are your concerns, or what do you feel like, or is there any place that is not so clear that you need clarification on. I have not mentioned all the 10 categories, but I dropped a document in the group that explains each one of them. It's just now for you to come and look through it and see, where do I fit, or where does my staff or my people fit. So there's also the room for partnership in the event, where you come and your post and your logo is featured in the event, in the media banner, different banners, the stage, the way you've seen the images looking. Yeah, so if you have a research paper, you are allowed to share with the body so that you can be involved in the first in on 13th and 14th. you can be involved in the panel discussions or the presentations. So if you have a research paper, there's room for that, but that is you can only do that up until 5th of June. So there's no time. So if you know of someone who has a research paper and would wish to be to get some insights from people who have been doing strategic research and to be mentored or to become a research fellow with this body, you can also invite them. So I just want to hear from you. For those who have interacted with these documents and or materials, what do you think? And do you have any questions? Any question that you have on that, you can just unmute and ask. That Mr. Mr. Anthony Wesong, I don't know if I've touched on everything that I was supposed to touch on. If I've missed out on something or if there's something that needs clarification, I'd wish to get it from members. Eric Coril, you have your hand raised. You can just unmute and ask.
I want to allow Eric Corey to ask
Okay.
first.
Thank you very much for the insight you have given us on the issue of registration. Now, if I get maybe if I pay $150 for certification, I want that clarification, a more clarification on maybe will I still be required to pay $80 for membership?
So for all the questions, I'm inviting the trainer to respond. Yes.
Okay. Uh, Mr. Corey, thank you for the question. Once you have paid $150, you get the certification in line with the category you have picked. And then you automatically become a member by that
Okay.
certification. So you don't pay any extra coin about that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other question? I received so many questions in the week over the same. So this is your chance. You can ask any question you think you have an issue with, even regarding the current training. So some have been asking if the training is free. The training is free. All the trainings are free because it has been sponsored by Community Breakthrough Support Mission. So they have sponsored the whole training process. But now it's now for you to choose if you want to go further or you want to remain where we are, and that's just okay for you. So I'll invite Nicholas. You have a question. You can unmute and ask Nicholas and then
Yes.
Frederick.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a question, just a follow up on the former colleague about membership. If you pay this money, is it like will it be like a one-off payment, or it's like annual subscription, or maybe after how long? That's the first question. Then the second part is in terms of affiliation or this particular. Is there like a given institution, like I've seen for the training you have NITA and stuff like that. So in terms of the academia, you like given maybe a given university or a PMP, something like that. Thank you.
Okay. I'll talk about it this way. Number one, enrollment. Once you have registered and you are certified, your certificate is valid forever. But there is a subscription that you must pay after every 3 years. Even those who are doing project management, yeah, they renew their certificate every 3 years.
I think we've lost the.
We lost you.
Yeah.
There is always subscription fee. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So while we're waiting for him to be back, the the payment is you pay for 3 years membership. 3 years from the time you pay. So that is the payment. And then now affiliations is that you're affiliated because corporate institute for strategic research is in different countries. So they have decided to now establish offices also in Kenya. that helps people who do a lot of innovation and strategy and strategic planning. It's like a body that now deals with that specifically, and research, intense research, academic research, and all that. So the money that you pay once, then it goes for 3 years. But the certificate will always remain that you are once certified as a strategic planner, administrator, or a researcher, whichever category you pick. I
Strategic planner.
yes,
That is great.
yes. I don't know if
Yeah.
I've answered all his questions. Frederick,
Thank you. My name is Frederick. Actually, mine is a request. Can this document of membership, this about money and where, can it be sent to us via the emails so that we can read through it, see the forms, how to jazz the forms and everything? Can this document be sent to us so that we can read through it and make an informed decision on way forward?
okay. Thank you so much, Frederick. I've seen the trainer is back. I will allow him to take us through the previous question and also yours. You can unmute.
Thank you. So the documents about registration are available in all form, electronic, and you can also get them on email as you have requested. And I think that Diana should be able to sort it right away. It has all the information you need, the question you may want to ask. But once you've read the document and still feel like you want to ask questions, their number there, my number is also there. You can always reach out to us so that we can give you further explanation where you do not probably understand well. So that's available. Then
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
the other question was,
That was the first question. If you are not able to answer
the,
it.
okay, okay, that one, okay. The question that happened when I was just exiting or because of the network. Okay, I'm just getting a list of affiliations here. So this strategy, this body, the global, we call it Global Center for Advanced Research, is a globally recognized body that does certification based in the UK with branches in many African countries. It is affiliated to the Corporate Institute of Strategic Research, which is also based in Ghana, Rwanda, and Nigeria. There are several global bodies that are affiliates to this, and I think I've been sent a list of close to 12 affiliates. But we can provide that in the document. Well, there are so many. I have so many documents, so many international bodies that are affiliated to this global process. There are, I think, 13. So you'll be able to interact and see. We have one called Nexus Research International. We have the Nexus University. We have CPD. I'll get the specific names. We have the Universal Certification Group. We have the ISO certification. You know about ISO? So the bodies are about 13 that are affiliated to this certification process. Are we okay, Mr. Molada?
Yeah, thank you. That's
Okay.
Okay. So, is there any other question or concern before we proceed to the next action? So basically, if you are part of this training, you need not worry about the process of registration and all that. First, we have to do the training. If you have not gone through the training, it's as good as null and void. So we have to complete the training first, and then we can look at that, the registration process and all that. Because I'm sure if you go to the link right now, you'll be required to have a reference letter. and that cannot be issued at the moment. So let's focus on the training first. That's why we usually say, let's focus on the concepts and all that, then the others can come later. But if you're an organization and you wish to be involved in the event, let's say for marketing or for brand visibility, that is also open and welcome. So I think I'm done on my side.
Okay, you're done on your side. Thank you, Diana, for that elaboration. And I think at this level, we know that there are people who want to be interested to become strategic consultants. Now, once you get certified as a globally certified strategic consultant, now the body works with you in the journey of developing your consultancy ability to consult locally and internationally. There are those who want to be certified as globally certified strategic managers in their areas of work. Again, you join the network of mentors that takes you through the journey of management, different perspective, the global aspect of management. So you will not be able to probably go to another country and say they don't recognize your papers. The certification you get globally is a license to enable you work in any other country. You don't need now to submit your local documents because it's assumed the documents you have submitted have been assessed through finally to be given this certification. And that is why on that form we have asked that you submit your credentials, attach your documents, so that we will have a panel going through your degree documents that you have and find out, make call and follow-ups from respective institutions to know that if you're asking to become a doctoral fellow, the requirement is you must have done a master's degree with an experience of more than 10 years in the industry. And so we have to verify that you have a genuine degree from the respective university. And that is why we are saying a application is to start rolling in immediately we finish these classes so that we now start the process of verification of the document before you get the certification. When you are certified as a strategic administrator, that applies to the company CEOs, to the company secretaries, to the lawyers who are drafters, anybody involved in administration, heads of institutions. When you are certified as a certified strategic educational researcher, you can now go on and check the publications. You can publish books, academic related books and publication at whatever level with that kind of certification. So when you publish a book as a globally certified strategic educational researcher, your book can be acceptable in Uganda and be read in their curriculum because you are globally certified. When you are certified as a research fellow, you can carry out research without permissions across the board because these are global bodies. So you can transact in any country. It's like a permit that gives you a go ahead to transact in any part of the world. So I'm hoping to meet a big number just the same way we've been big here, so that when we meet for a cup of tea, we can shake hands and know each other better. As we help you build your profile of becoming a researcher, or becoming a strategic administrator, manager, or a consultant, because I want to produce consultants who are going to compete me in the market or complement me in the market. Thank you.
What if we end up out competing you?
Yeah, a good competition, yes.
Okay, thank you so much
Yeah.
for that clarification. So, I hope I'm not closing out on anyone with a question.
On anyone with a
Diana.
question?
Yes,
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm very much sorry to interrupt you in the middle of the session. So there is something that I want a clarification. like I've had Malimu saying he wants to grow more people in consultants. So for instance, now are you doing consultant firms in strategic plans alone, or for instance, if someone is an accountant or other let's say other professions, are they being mentored and nurtured, or it's only we are only dealing with strategic those things?
Thank you very much. I will come in on that.
Thank you very much. I will come in on that.
Maybe you mute.
Maybe you mute.
We are here based on the vision and mission of Community Breakthrough Support Mission. We are here to build capacity. And we are not just building capacity in strategic management. We are building capacity in different areas. We want to have different consultants specialized in different disciplines. And we have different teams that can nurture every need. The only thing we are not able to do is the medical field, but this what we call social sciences, business world, the team have the capacity to nurture you from A to Z, which also includes strategic management. We are not able to deal with the medical world. You know how medical world is sensitive. We deal with many volunteers, professors, practitioners in the different fields, based on the experience accrued in the industry, and they are on board to empower the community. From August going forward, we shall be having a team from chairman, and their methodology of training will be a little bit different, and they will be dealing with the application of different tools in management, whether it's project management, monitoring and evaluation, strategic management, but they'll focus on application of tools. If you are talking about project management, are you able to use MS Project in the application of the skills you have acquired? Even just developing a candy chart in your own project management, when you are dealing with even a family project, are you able to come up with a candy chart, or even just having a simple tool to manage your own project? So those by August going forward, God willing, the chairman will be dealing with that. But having answered your question, if you are developing consultants in accounts, the answer is yes, you can be nurtured. We have in this team people who are already running auditing firms and have been running their own auditing firms for many years. So yes, you can be nurtured and proceed and grow into your own auditing firm. I have seen somebody have asked a question for people who did not sign attendance register. When you go in the chat section, there is somebody called Litia Nafula Sawenja is sharing a Google form. Click on that Google form and it will lead you to sign in on today's training. I want to alert you that we are dealing with the general public, both in Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, Somalia, name them. Here we have a different hybrid of people, and therefore we designed a system to prevent any level of cheating. Immediately, this class or this training ends, and Diana Torin signs out that the attendance register expires. It expires. So if you ask Diana or me or any other facilitator or the trainer of the day about last training attendance register, we don't have it, we don't access it. It expires and it immediately submits a report of those people who attended the training. So that is a closed chapter. To rescue or to remedy this, to cure this scenario, we talked to the current trainer to arrange a makeup class. Last Wednesday, we had a makeup class. And next Wednesday, we are also going to have a makeup class for those who missed first and second training. Should there be a need, then we will have, CPSM will have to engage again. If you have any other need, kindly liaise with Diana Doreen so that your need can be handled as a special makeup class, but we cannot reshare. We don't have the capacity to reshare past attendance registers. They're already closed, and the system automatically sent to our toners. The system is well designed to prevent any level of corruption or any level of manual manipulation. Thank you and God bless you.
We have Amos Katenge. You can unmute and ask your question.
Hello, my name is Simi Amos Katenge. So I have a question. Once you finish the classes, then let me say you've paid the registration fee. So are we the ones still who will care for the food and accommodation, let me say so, at Pan Africa Hotel?
It's a very good question.
Someone also is asking if so Chena, you can also answer this. Someone is also asking, are we allowed to pay in Kenyan shillings?
Okay.
Let the trainer come in and answer that one.
Okay. Thank you, Doc, for explaining the other arrangement. But I'll still emphasize before I go to those newer questions. The princess had asked that question and she's been well answered. However, I must also inform you that a strategic plan is needed in every institution. Whether you are doing medical or finance, you realize the document that cuts across every engineering and what have you is the document we're talking about. And so one of the objectives of training is to develop strategic thinkers, not necessarily becoming a strategic consultant, but you can know how best to optimize resources in the organization you're working for or you intend to work for. So it also prepares you to become a think tank in the line of strategy, not necessarily becoming a strategic planner. So that also sorts you that way. The question about food and accommodation. Now, this is the arrangement. On 13th and 14th, we shall be having virtual sessions. The virtual sessions will be the presentations of papers. There are people who will be submitting papers for review to be given doctoral degrees. At that point, the process will be purely virtual. A few of us will be in the hotel doing moderation and running of these programs. So you'll be allowed to be given a link to join and follow it up through social media and the tools you're going to be given. So 13th and 14th, you don't need to appear. You follow it through the process that will be giving you. If you are submitting a paper, then you'll have a chance to attend to present in person on that day or virtually based on the arrangement that we are going to give you on the paper that you'll be submitting. On the material day, the 15th day of June, that is when we need the physical appearance of you, me, and the rest to come have a cup of tea together. It will be a luncheon, not about a cup of tea, a luncheon. And then we give you a certificate, take photos with the network, people network, connect with the people, get contact, follow up where things are done. So that is the day when you appear. So your meal to be taken care of on the 15th day of June. But on 13th and 14th, you can eat comfortably in your house as you follow through the process.
What about if someone is allowed to pay in?
Were there any questions?
Someone had asked if they are allowed to pay in Kenya shillings because you said $150. And the reason why we put it that way, I would say maybe it's because of the demographics. And we said we have different people from Yemen, Lesotho, Angola, South Sudan, Tanzania. So yeah, so maybe you can give us something on that. I'll also, Amos, have you been answered?
Yes, I've been answered.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other person with a question?
Diana, can I ask something again?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I was asking, is there, apart from maybe paying the dollar, the amount of the money that you're supposed to pay, is there any other requirement? Like if today I just have a certificate in procurement or supply chain management, a certificate, not a diploma, neither a degree, am I also eligible so that when I pay, I become through mentorship and nurturing is it programs and maybe sessions? Will it earn me something greater, or at the end of the day I'll be limited because of my papers? I do not have I do not have a degree, I do not have a master's and what all those stuffs.
So I guess that is a question that the trainer has to answer dealing regarding the different categories. So for me, I would say once you have finished this course, then you are supposed to register and be verified if you qualify for any of the categories that I've listed in the document I shared earlier. So maybe I can, is anyone in this forum who is not part of our community, so that I can reshare that document that has all the details about the requirement for each section. So that I think that will be answered via the document so that it's very clear about the qualifications and the level of education that you are supposed to be at to qualify as a strategic administrator or researcher. Okay, so I think let me see if we have any question in the chat section. Okay, there was a question that was directed to you. Someone was asking if they do not have a degree or a diploma and they've just attended this session and they paid the $150. Are they then qualified?
I can maybe you come again. You're breaking.
Okay, someone just asked if they have a
Mhm.
diploma or they do not
Mhm.
have that or they do not have a degree or a master's and they've attended this session and they have paid for the $150 dollars, are they qualified to become whichever category that 150 covers?
Still breaking, but I have picked I have picked the part of degree and diploma. They say if someone has a diploma
Yeah,
but does not have a degree,
just mention.
No,
right?
she said if someone doesn't have a diploma or a degree, but she has a certificate. Yeah.
And it's quite unfortunate if you don't have
Or even a Form 4 leaver in Kenya,
And
maybe.
it's quite unfortunate.
Okay, thank you. At that point, we will not really, and you know, the requirement, even locally here, you must have the basic education level, which is national diploma. So if you don't have a diploma, you have a certificate. One, you already don't qualify to become a strategic administrator, manager, or a consultant. But you can join as a member, pay the membership fee, join to be a member after getting a certificate of participation. Now, there is a certificate of participation that will be given to those who just participate, but they are not going to be certified in anything. So once you be certified, you have become a member by being given a certificate of participation. You'll be taken through a training, a rigorous training. The body also provides diploma and postgraduate diploma courses. So you'll be taken through a course that I'm here to find the costs. Then once you have made the diploma course that they will provide, then that is when you can transit to become certified in whichever category that fits within that qualification. But before then, with a certificate level today, we will not be able to certify you. Does it feel, have I answered the question? Are we together?
I think clearly and everybody have understood.
Okay.
Okay, you have answered, and so let me know this just for a clarification. If, for instance, I'm asking this because I have a lot of friends who are sorry.
There's a lot of noise in the
Network,
background.
okay.
There's a lot of noise in the background.
It's not coming from my side.
Maybe
Okay,
asking a
okay, so you mean, for instance, if someone has got just a certificate today, so the organization has other programs that can make the person maybe sort of maybe become a qualified, so that maybe he or she is certified.
Yes, true. There are programs that they can train you to
Yes,
acquire
true.
a diploma
There
in
are
strategic
programs that they
management.
can train you to acquire a diploma in strategic management.
Yeah. There's a lot of noise. I don't know where it's coming from.
I would request if this
Can you hear me now?
I would request if someone, I think if she speaks and we are all opening our mics, then it creates that issue. So let's once someone is done speaking, the other one mutes and like that turn taking or something.
Okay. So now I can explain to her. I think there's point of order now. There's no more noise. If you have a certificate, princess, or any person you're asking on behalf, the organization, the global body, has partnered with the organization that train, and therefore we will advise you which organization you can join to be trained to do that diploma in strategic management and get that certificate of the academic certificate first. And then you can start the process. But with the proficiency we have trained you now, the certificate you get internally will already now qualify to take you to the next level, because now you can become a secretary, but now the strategic one, strategic secretary. So you must undergo the diploma program that will be provided for either in your own arrangement in a college, national college, or in the program that will give you with the partners that are offering those courses. The body has partnered with the colleges that are offering those courses. And so we'll advise you which institution you can join to be trained, the diploma first, before you can be certified. Is that home?
Yes, I'm sure that's
Yes, it's at home. Thank
yes,
you.
I'm sure. Okay, so we're going to bring this session to an end. So first of all, I would like to appreciate the trainer for the time he has taken today to run us through today's session as well as the other session that has a lot of questions. So I really want to appreciate you for the presentation you've made, and maybe we can all appreciate him in the way that we do it because it has been precise and to the point today.
Don't forget to give flowers, flowers, flowers. Now, members, you should also be putting on your camera so that we can see your face. If I meet you in the street, I should know who you are. Diane, oh, joy, welcome.
That starts with you.
Engineer, some of us we do trainings while at work. We are just hiding under the curtain so that we can
Let's
train. When you put on the camera, surely.
first of all, show your face.
I'm the only person who shows my face every time. The
Yes,
rest are undercover.
you are perfect. We know the person talking to us is not a cost. That's on a lighter note. But there are people here we have not seen their faces.
Okay, so I guess we will get into the habit of having our videos on, but the problem is some of us are usually attending the session while on transit or something. Some are in the market, so there'll be a lot of distraction.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of Germans coming on board. I know their style of teaching, their pedagogy is awesome.
Yes. So
So
yeah. So
yeah,
that is the
and
next. That is the next.
the next
Yes, that will be coming up
good.
at the before the end of the year. We'll be having a session on project management that is more practical and uh, centered on our activities. So
That will be great.
yeah. So I hope you've all signed the attendance register.
Diana, I'm sorry. Before you go, I have an inquiry.
Allow me to not allow you to speak today. We have a lot of noise in the background. I don't know if you have opened two devices at the same time, or I'm not sure what's causing the noise today from your side. Are you able to maybe if you've joined with two devices?
Yeah, firstborn, you may need to check your gadgets. Maybe you have signed in two accounts that are running.
Yeah.
I know you may have something. Oh, maybe log out and log in again.
Yes.
Otherwise, for me, I'm very much grateful, Stavia. I think one of these fine days we'll meet. There is a lot, especially in the field of projects, organizations, how to run those organizations. And what you have shared is quite significant to what we normally meet in our daily lives. And it's very crucial, that box you shared here about doing the right thing badly, doing the wrong thing well, and what have you. It's just because of lack of strategic plan. If you don't have the strategy, you'll always get it wrong. So these are great lessons to learn.
Diana, I see a lot of interest, people wanting to interact more. I think ask them to come to Pan Africa. We can have a meeting of the team and have a group photo
Yeah.
and share meals, have fun together, and start walking the journey. Yeah.
Yeah, the previous feedback I got from project management class was that people are requesting for in person, at least one in person session. So I believe this would be it, the time for us to meet and understand who is firstborn princess, who is Namehe, who is Engineer Robert.
Yes.
Yes.
I hope Namehe will be making it to Nairobi. Yes.
Namehe
Let me
must be
see how things
airlifted.
go. Eh?
Namehe will be airlifted
Tunaweza
Nairobi.
kuchanga fare. Tunaweza kuchanga flight ticket. If she,
That is very true. Okay, so this
it
has
is
ended.
Uganda Airline is doing well. I can see. Yeah.
The session